All right, welcome back to Night School. We're talking about part three of the Brothers Karamazov today. And Babcock will be joining us in the same way that Wes joined us last time. And so there's a dramatic element to our
There
narrative.
it is.
Yes. Yes. Babcock, sorry to dispense with the pleasantries. We've started recording, not that that means we can't have pleasantries. But I was just saying that we're discussing part three of Brothers K tonight. But I should say Brothers Karamazov because there is a famous modern retelling Brothers K, which I have not read. Um, but we get a little bit on Alyosha and the odor of corruption. This is an amazing chapter. Then also a little bit later, the an onion, that little allegory. Book eight is about Mitya, and he's going around trying to get some money, and then has this sort of crazy bacchanal party like he apparently had a month ago when he really started going to seed. And I mentioned to you guys in text that that struck me as like an extremely Dionysian mode of being.
Mhm.
It's like an extraordinary celebration, but a celebration that leads to immediate degeneration and perhaps even sacrifices one's future in order to have it. And I was thinking of the example of, say, Pentheus and what happens to him from Agave under the influence of Dionysus, but also just of what maybe, I don't know, what maybe the Dionysian mode
Mhm.
could be. And then, of course, we have this amazing sort of question answer period, almost catechistic, but so reminiscent of Crime and Punishment. And Mitya seems to have this degenerating mental state. He goes from being proud to sort of sad, to sort of resigned, to sort of irritated, and yeah. Well, gents, I'm interested in hearing what you guys have to say after that very, very short reading of the table of contents.
No, that was fine. I think that's most of the important things, but also, don't we get the murder in this part?
We get the murder.
Kind of important.
Okay, so I get several consummations in a
Yeah.
way, right? Yeah, so we get the murder. Very important. Even to an allegorical reading. We also get this huge crazy party. And I want to hear what you guys have to say about that. And if you did compare it or would compare it to the Demon's crazy party, the mixing of everybody in this revolutionary space where they couldn't even finish all the nighttime part of the fete didn't even end up happening because of how disastrous the morning part was. Um, but I guess my question to you is, do you read it like me and this being sort of a masterwork in showing the delirious mind, the mind that is clearly sick and has done something that has rendered it in its own estimation irredeemable, is running so fast from itself, like Tom Cruise in a movie, um, that that it's hard to follow the narrative because the narrative is following the mentality of such a sick individual. And you just know that they are going to ruin slash have ruined themselves and occupying that same mental space as a, somewhat well adjusted uh human at the moment is very hard, but also is like when I read uh not the idiot, but sorry, the notes from Underground, I see so much of my own self and my own rationalizing of my situation while asking crazy things of people while thinking that some sort of special consideration will come to me because I want it. And so there will be if I have a can-do attitude and there's a will, there's a way. Um, but Mitya is really showing sort of the reductio ad absurdum of that attitude, and that certain things, sort of write your fate in stone, and 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 this is what I think in this part of the book is truly masterful, but really ugly and tough to read, while also really fun to read in some ways too. If I were drunk, I think I would like it.
Uh, in, I mean, in some ways, he does. get what he wants, though, right? Because he goes looking for Grushenka, and then he realizes, oh, I have to recreate the circumstances under which I was closest to Grushenka and had this wonderful experience, this delirious experience. And so it is delirium, but it's what I find interesting about it is how it's trying to recapitulate the authentic delirium that was,
Uh,
that happened. And
right.
he's trying to kind of recapture that, and he wants to get it by any means necessary. And he does. I mean, he does sort of, but at what cost? Yeah. And so there's an odd kind of retrospective quality to it, which I think, as you're pointing out, like comes in with the catechistic questioning of him at that part towards the end of it, and that in itself kind of like foreshadows what a big chunk of the remainder of the book is presumably going to be, right? The trial that unravels all of this from all the different perspectives, all the different threads, and then kind of brings it to a close. Uh, you know, we could imagine this being the end of a book almost, right? We get the crisis, we get the
Yep.
murder, we get yeah the wild night. But instead, we're going to do it all over again. And that quality of repetition seems pretty important here.
Uh, One thing I think is, Alex, you brought up the reductio ad absurdum. Um, it's like the murder is not the important thing for Mitya because he says he didn't do it. And his testimony, Grushenka says, you just got to believe it. He wouldn't lie about this. It's like, okay, great. Uh, and
Nope.
then, but the investigators are like not really concerned about that part. All that they care about is the thing that is like most core secret to himself, and it's whether he spent 3,000 or 1,500 rubles. And like he had it sewn around his neck. It was such this like
So he
great,
says.
yeah, well, right, sure, of course, yeah. This great shame that he has. The thing that I was thinking a lot about, kind of in like a what inspired this, and I think having read Notes from the Underground, it is really helpful in understanding a lot of what Dostoevsky has written since he wrote that book. It's like all of his novels are, in my mind, inspired by stories he heard these criminals in Siberia tell him.
Mhm.
That's basically all he's doing. He's just telling these books. But this book is like this murder. He's like hiding a great human novel in a murder mystery.
Mhm.
Like this is really just a murder mystery. Like who killed, Fyodor, and all of the preamble that we read about, like you really don't like who gives a shit about the elder Zosima, and yet he's like one of the most captivating characters that's ever been written about. Uh, and yet he has nothing to do with this murder, and but we had like a whole book about his background. So I just really that's one thing which doesn't really have anything to do with like theme, or well, maybe it does, but just this construction, this notion of like Dostoevsky has not hidden, but he's hidden the crime novel inside of a. I don't even know what to call this book other than that. Like a potboiler crime novel. You know what I mean? Like a suspense, like a Dashiell Hammett, who done it type thing.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is when I remember this and store this in my mind, I store it. I remember the tavern scene between Alyosha and Ivan. I think a lot of people do, and I forget about the crime aspect. I obviously know what the big crime is, but maybe not. I think it's interesting. It reminds me of Euripides's play about I think called the Alcestis, which is about the wife of a king who's willing to die for him so that he can continue to live. And so I wonder here. Um, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting why what the connection between that is and
Well, it's I mean, it's like there's an encouching of a narrative, like a obviously this kind of murder mystery type story is popular at the time. So he's hiding uh, I keep saying this because but I'm putting it in the wrong way in which he does it because obviously the murder mystery is hidden inside, but it's like he's hiding, um, one of, if not the most profound human character studies inside of a murder mystery.
Yes.
Uh,
Okay, so what I meant to say, I'm sorry, is that like what it's also doing is it's putting off showing us the scene that we all want to see. So in that particular play, Euripides never even gives us the scene where the wife like has the conversation with the husband and agrees to die for him. That's what we all want to see, but that's already happened. Same way in this, the death, well, I guess we're going to get that at some point, but we certainly haven't gotten it, and we don't even have it straight though we think we have it straight. There's this pestle that was probably used on him because this door was open that he claimed was closed, and he actually knew the signs that the dad knew, and they know that, and yeah, and so he starts accusing Smerdyakov, and says this garbled stuff about 1,500 rubles, and it just it makes one wonder. Well, I my question, I guess, is then, do you where are you with Mitya with this argument at this point? Like, is this like with Raskolnikov, where you actually know what happened and you're kind of rooting for him to be this sort of Ubermensch, but kind of not, but this Porphyry guy's really sharp? Well, we don't actually know what's happened. We think we know, right? The law is getting pretty close to knowing and even trying to help him, and he's not helping himself. Um, we're what At this point, even if you do know what has happened, what would you think is happening? Would you buy what Mitya is saying, or does it again just seem like blathering?
I, I mean, I think in a way, the most damning evidence against him, strangely, is that bit about the elder bowing to him sort of prophetically and making a big deal about Alyosha needing to save his brother. And as we saw, Alyosha is fairly ineffective, actually, I mean, when it comes down to it. He can talk Ivan around to a kind of humanity, and he can certainly listen, very well. But he is not able to keep up with Mitya's headlong, right, head over heels rushing ahead. And again, we, we are given a lot of the words about the elder from Alyosha uh, as a kind of transition from the events leading up to the murder to kind of getting that immediate those immediate events, the night of and then the morning after. And I think that there is something, important there, even for the crime part of this book, because among the many anecdotes and stories and things is this one about the elder speaking with a murderer. And he's essentially, in a very crime and punishment sort of way, letting the man know that what he needs to do is confess publicly and accept the guilt. Um, because after all, everyone is guilty, and it's just a little bit more accentuated in certain circumstances, right? Like crimes like this. And that's where we get yet again that verse about the um
about that a grain of wheat should fall.
and it's like total chance, right? They just open the Bible, right? And look at what they find in there and it's like, well, it certainly seems like that's not an accident, right? And that's what I feel as I read this book. And I guess that's the way of all detective stories, right? Is that you're in the hands of somebody who knows exactly what's going on, and they're constructing it in such a way that you could know what's going on. You could figure it out. And if you don't, it's okay. It's still okay because there's going to be a denouement, right, within the context of this complete work. Um, Now, postmodern books will mess with that kind of agreement between the writer and the reader. But at least in this book, yeah, as much terrible stuff as is happening, and as much as it looks bad for Mitya, I'm inclined to say that whatever the case may be, while Mitya is guilty and may well be guilty of the death, that's not the only thing that matters here. And so yeah, Grushenka's kind of testimony about him matters, and of course Alyosha's attempts to save him matter, and his own account of the story when we finally get it, when he's finally get over his shame, that's going to mean something too. And we have yet to see Smerdyakov, Ivan, they're kind of the other two big, um, missing pieces of this whole thing at this point. So I think we should reserve our judgment as bad as it does look for Mitya.
Yeah, I, Wes, you've said two things that I was thinking about, and I think they're kind of connected. Is I guess to answer Alex's question, I'm inclined to look at it as kind of just babble
Yeah.
because of what was said earlier. Like he's
Right.
how did you put it? He's trying to recreate this feeling from the first meeting, right?
Mm.
And it's obsessive. And
Yes.
for whatever reason, I was thinking, you can't go to the past, you can't recreate something exactly the same way. And as close as you get, it's just going to be perverse.
Right.
And the more you try that, it's going to jumble you all up. You're not getting what you want, even if you are getting close to what you want, and that can kind of drive you crazy. So you're completely out of your wits, and then something else happens that a murder happens, and you're a suspect. How do you reason out of that? Everything that's come before you is about this obsession that has you jumbled. You're not going to talk straight. So
Yep.
like that's the character profile that I'm getting from him in this moment. Is he's all passion. He doesn't know what's going on. He can only speak to certain things. He's mixed up. He's got his shame. He's got his obsession. It's all jumbling together, and it looks bad for him. But right, there's other things that matter. Grushenka's kind of level-headed, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think her word carries some meaning. Like, yeah, she's deceptive and crude, but she is pretty honest.
She gave an onion after all.
Right.
She
Yeah.
gave an
Yeah.
onion.
Gave an onion.
I was
Uh,
thinking about
it-
that. Yeah, sorry, go on, Babcock.
well, I was gonna. I mean, this is related to the onion. Um, does do you think Mitya is noble?
Duh.
Well, so I'd like to make a distinction here. He is a former lieutenant in service, so he had some sort of noble rank at some point, but he is disgraced and impoverished. And I think, to Justin's point, and in response to yours, Babcock, is that since he is so obsessed with getting Grushenka, he is motivated to do whatever is necessary to get what he wants, even for an extremely limited amount of time. So limited an amount of time that she tells him not to touch her, even when he puts her to bed, and gets, like, I think, a kiss on the forehead or something like that. But the problem with him and nobility is he's no longer acting or speaking. He's not acting in a way to meet a standard, nor is he speaking in a way to meet the standard of speaking truth. He's speaking in a way to get what he wants. He's manipulative. And so he's using, I think, his own emotions to try and emotionally manipulate the people around him. And that's what's ugly. So he uses this sort of earnestness to act like he's on some, like, divine quest and to pull people into it. And how he does that is with with exorbitant sums of money and various like sort of sinful treats like chocolates and alcohol. And he's like, and he's again giving these perverse quantities that are themselves showing how unbalanced he is, that he's so far from reason right now. So my answer to whether he's noble or not is that all of the pretension that he's making in nobility is like the noble face of Geryon. That is, but what's at its back is what that cabman, the police cabman, recognized when he says, "I'm not your good fellow. Please do address me correctly." Now, he's like Geryon. He's a fraud, and he's a figure of fraud to me. And so he is not noble. He is only noble in appearance to me by that accounting that I've just given.
So there's this at the beginning of the gold mines chapter, which is fucking great bit where he thinks he's gonna get $1 million. She's like, "Oh no, I don't have any money for you."
Right? Like if he really wanted what he wanted it for some amount of time, he might be able to put some work in. That's the whole problem.
Yeah. Now, okay. So in the chapter before, he also saves the dude from dying from the fume poisoning, right? But he does it because he's waiting there because he wants to get money from this guy, right? So it's like, so to your point, Alex, it's like he's got this facile nobility. Okay, but in the beginning of that chapter, there's this note, and I'm just cursorily looking over it again. This commentary about Othello. Do you guys remember this? And I think it's just the narrator, to be honest, talking about Othello. And it says Pushkin observes that Othello is not jealous; he's trustful. Othello's soul is simply shattered because his ideal is destroyed. A truly jealous man is not like that. I literally this week have started teaching Othello and Hamlet, and so it's like for a minute I'm thinking about, okay, is Mitya Othello? And the thing about Othello, at least in my mind, is that of all of Shakespeare's tragic heroes, he's by far, this is just my opinion, the most actually noble. Like he's the best of them all. Like he is a truly righteous man who is completely destroyed because he trusts people too much. But then when Alex, the way you're just talking about Mitya is that he will say what he needs to get what he wants. And Othello kind of does that with Desdemona. I mean, he like tells these tales that are fantastic and maybe they happened, but there's no proof of any of it. I mean, he talks about anthropophagi and he says he's from royal line, but he's also a slave and he's been fighting since he was 7, since I was 7 years pith in the untenanted field. So like, there's all this kind of mysteriousness, which isn't to say he doesn't behave nobly in the play before he falls. Okay. But then I'm thinking about all of your description of what you were just criticizing Mitya for is Hamlet. He does all of this for what he claims is a noble cause to try to bring down the king, to restore the rightful king being himself. He doesn't, it leads to the death of Ophelia. It leads to the death of Laertes. It leads to the death of his mother. And it's also centered at the very center part of the play on a Dionysian festival of play, right?
But Mitya here, what would you say to this? Mitya kills his father. Hamlet kills his substitute father, who he is supposed to kill for his father that his ghost dad entrusts him with the mission of doing. And so
I take that point. I would have to tease out what the righteous kill would be for Mitya. I mean, he didn't actually kill him, right? I don't want to get into the.
Well, we don't know. So okay,
right,
we're already trying to like set up
sure. But I would say, like, is there wiggle room where it's like his father deserves to die? His father is a heinous person. But I mean, we all deserve to die. So I don't mean to.
But also like that old woman, but even worse. Like we got his character. He's terrible. And it seems like the world might be better without him. And yet, such an act in some way worsens the world and requires some sort of
Yeah.
civic and familial response.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking myself into being a Mitya apologist or an apologist for a murder, and like that's not really, uh, I don't, that's not a position I want to
Well, it's
stand
not
in.
clear that he did murder at this point, so I don't think you are.
Sure, but but whatever. I was going down that path, and so I don't know what, I don't know what to make. It just made me think of these commonalities between, like, because clearly Dostoevsky is very concerned about Hamlet. I mean, in like three of these works, he's been.
Well, here, let me throw this at you. Maybe he's like the sort of Edmund and Edgar and King Lear dichotomy because he thinks he deserves the kingdom, right? And he thinks that the kingdom is like this teat on which that he can suck, and he doesn't know how to make any money. He just knows how to spend it. He's
Oh,
he's basically more worthless than his dad. His dad might engage in sharp practice, but he has made the money that eventually is stolen from him by somebody. Um, uh, and so uh, Mitya is this would-be king who is a prince, um, but who doesn't seem to understand. Like he likes to throw around his crown, but he doesn't know how to govern at all himself.
yeah, he would actually be terrible with the money.
He doesn't make correct decisions. He
Yeah.
just gone home to Katerina Ivanovna, married her. The fact that Ivan loves her is a great vouching for how great she is, not to mention everything that she does here. And but he chooses Grushenka, whose very name is like, I guess, a little bit disparaging, right? Like Agrafina is her actual name. Grushenka is like a little bit derogatory in some way. But that was a question I wanted to ask, just because we were talking about her and we made sort of a big deal about her last time. Is she like a Mater Dolorosa figure or like Pieta figure? Is she redeemed? Is she femininity redeemed? Is she as a character redeemed in these acts towards Mitya, or is this just part of her continuing sort of veil of Maya and illusion that she spreads on situations? Because we've seen her play fast with the truth and or at least um with how she's going to act, right? Between one moment and another. Sometimes she says she can change her mind and then but now we know her back history. We've seen her jilted, or has sent out this guy that for 5 years she waited on, and now she's trying to vouch for Mitya. But it would also seem that her situation is totally changed. This person that we have learned sort of taught her how to do business and but also kind of ruined her by 19th century Russian middle class standards. Um, when he leaves her and she loses his sort of patronage, she's sort of out on her own. So one could make the argument that she's very motivated to help Mitya in a sort of betrothed marital sort of way at this moment. Their interests are very much aligned.
I mean, if she's someone, I would marry Magdalene would be more the character. But
Okay,
yeah.
yes, but would you say would you say that she is she being redeemed, or is she like more like a Francesca and being like just further damned?
I think she's at the tipping point of that choice. Um, I like that question because the answer's not it's not clear, but like my feeling tells me something, right? Like I'm gonna struggle to articulate that, but based on her character previously, she's well aware, very conscious of what it takes to look like a good person. Maybe even that's something she has in common with Mitya, in that he kind of, he knows enough about nobility to be manipulative, to pretend to be. And I think she's got some of that as well. Like, I mean, I I do love the onion story, but just because she could tell that story doesn't mean that she is redeemed. It's that she is not fully fallen, I think is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It's
Not fully fallen might be all of them at this point. Sorry, Wes, we're just
sure. Yeah, no, but I can't say she's redeemed yet, but the potential is there, I guess you could say. And depending on how she goes forward, it'll be a yes or a no. But I think she's at the crossroads of that.
got it.
Yeah, it's interesting that to me, the analogy, or one of them might be the character from The Idiot, right? Nastasia,
Mm,
uh, who
yeah.
Filipovna, right? And she has this similar kind of backstory, and she's this similar kind of alluring Russian beauty. Um, and the love triangle there is constructed kind of in analogous way, in line with this, where there's kind of another option, right? Aglaya, the bubbly, kind of kind, innocent,
Young
uh,
daughter.
wealthy daughter, yeah, and then Nastasia, and so here we have Katerina, who sort of fits in that same role from what we know of her so far, but the huge difference, right, is that pursuing Nastasia, you have Rogozhin, and he's a very kind of dark figure, versus in this case, it is it's the father himself, right, pursuing her, or rather, sort of waiting, luring her. And the way that they talk about her, she is this kind of prize, but one that they aren't. Yeah, they're not in control of her choice, right? They're sort of waiting to see who she chooses. And
It-
what
yes.
Say again.
what
I was agreeing. I said she seems to be in control of the
Yeah.
she's
situation.
in control. They're sitting, and what really changes here is that Mitya, maybe out of desperation, really seizes that and turns the tables on that, and maybe ascertains something that's true about her character, that she needs to be pursued in order to be won, right? And she basically says as much, like when she sees him show up, and she sees her old, flame show up and seem so kind of boring by comparison, she realizes that she can't love anyone but him, or that's what she says. And so, at any rate, like seizing with boldness the risk, right? It really does seem to temporarily, at least, work out for Mitya, and the danger is that um, in confronting his rival too directly, he's now going to lose everything, right? Because turns out that guy's dead, and they're he's the chief suspect here. Um, yeah, and I mean the Othello comparison, the Pentheus or Bacchae comparison, like there's no shortage of kind of resonances that we might see with that. Um, but what I find pretty powerful here is the way that Dostoevsky is layering like the love story so closely onto the the murder story, right? It's almost like the
Quite
way you could pose the
plus
question
punishment.
is like, well, like, is in order to get Grushenka, is is that in some way like equivalent to murdering the father, right? Is delirium a murder of the father? Or like is that the cost to get to experience that feeling or something
Like
like
so,
that?
Pentheus gives
Mhm.
up his reason
Mhm.
and gives in to Bacchus's uh will. And so is that yes, like what Dmitri here does. Uh
Apparently, we don't know,
yeah.
but to all appearances.
He seems to have the intention to do at some
Mhm.
even if he did not do it and he actually got the money from Katerina Ivanovna. I mean, what do you think of that story? By the way, so let's talk about some of these uh well, maybe we can compare and contrast these two women and whether one is like, a figure of like sort of Christian giving or like, or
Sacrifice,
yeah,
she
right.
essentially.
But she is apparently the one from whom Mitya stole.
Mhm.
She gave him this money to mail, and I can't recall whether she gave him a weird face when she did it. I know he said that there was no reason for her to give him that task, and then he just took it and he sewed some into his clothes. And even though he was so offended earlier when the men had checked his clothes for sewing, thinking, I'm so noble, I would never do that. That's and so um yes. Is Katerina Ivanovna like a more modern Dolorosa, more like Mary like or I don't know if she's an Eve like figure, but more of a Mary Magdalene sort of figure or a suffering but giving figure than um uh, unredeemed and possibly going to be redeemed Grushenka, or maybe I should call her Agrafena. Or is she also sort of a fraud?
I mean, I don't have like a put together argument, just more like it's 2025, so it's just the vibes. But her vibes are definitely just as, if not even more inauthentic than Grusha. Um, Partially, I think because she lives in a seemingly haughty way, um, which in some ways makes her a good match for Ivan.
Mhm.
The sort of arrogance of Ivan matches with her class arrogance. Um, she doesn't have as much screen time, so
Yeah.
I don't know that I can really like put together a why that is. Yeah.
Yeah. And she doesn't strike me as anything separate from kind of how she's presented.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She's like a
Maybe.
device for Dmitri to be shamed.
Well, yeah, I guess what I mean is that like there's sort of a very almost bland sincerity there.
Right.
Yeah.
Like she is just a function of giving, like this sort of undefined, inauthentic, or like almost childish conception of the feminine as like giving. But it's also kind of the patrimony too, right? Because she gives money, you know, to him, patronage as well, what he seeks from the father, but doesn't seem to get, or claims he didn't get from him. And so, I mean, is she all she could also be like a, I don't know, like what these socialist revolutionaries consider the state to be,
Mm.
some sort of, androgynous mother father that gives them what they want when they want it.
I can
And
see her.
then who occupies as the person who's going to shame you, right? Like, or the symbol of your shame. That seems to be how she functions. Like she gives money, but then you feel bad about it, right?
I could see that. I was gonna say I could almost. I'm reaching a little bit, but I could almost see her as uh, like she would support the revolution because it was popular, but then she would be murdered for it. Like she's not an intellectual, like she's not really a part of it. She's like, oh yeah, of course we're doing this. Oh crap, I'm the one that got killed. Like there, there's maybe I'm sensing like a naivete,
Yeah.
but there's a shrewdness in the naivete a little bit too. I mean, ultimately, I think you're right, Babcock. That like she didn't have a lot of screen time, so there's just a lot of conjecture on it. But
You know that
I guess I don't see her being deceitful. This is what I'm getting at. Yeah.
you make me think that your description of her makes me think a lot of the Little Princess in War and Peace, Prince Andre's wife, who like
Oh,
even when she died, like looked kind of like sternly and like everybody had wronged her in some way. But you're also making me think that so yes, I do think that she like fails the test that indicates that she gets like full character status and full female agency and not even close. She just serves basically yes to cause shame in almost an archetypal way. And in that way is like an opposite manic pixie fairy character. So in the same way that those girls act to like help a boy along the story of Bildungsroman, like Ramona Flowers and Scott Pilgrim. It's all about him, not about her, and all about his growth and blah blah blah. Well, here, the manic, she is since she functions to help him feel shame, Katerina Ivanovna, she is more a symbol not of transformation and growth, but of degeneration. She functions to show his moral degeneration. In the same way that we've seen his economic degeneration and his judgmental, his like sort of mental degeneration, but he just wrongs her and she accepts it in this quietistic sort of way and 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 in some ways is sort of like a function of the church but like an infernal function in that like you can choose just how deep you want to dig your grave and he has chosen as we saw with the elder like we've said earlier bowing to him to dig a very deep grave and to feel a vast amount of shame. And so, yes, I don't think that she is used as a true character, but I think that the symbol that she sort of is a sort of interesting symbol, and that it's very Dostoevsky in his attempt to scar our souls always, and to toughen us up. He is he is showing us a major transition, like a major degeneration of status and social standing, and even sort of like the consummate lack of mental stability that goes along with that complete deterioration and abasement all at once. And so that I think that's a very interesting symbol. I think that makes it very hard to read as well, in the same way that it's like very easy to watch Scott Pilgrim or like read a Bildungsroman or most video games are like that's or to some extent that notion. Many are different now. Um, but yeah. What do you think of that, or do you think of her differently?
I think what you said though is still a question that sticks with me is well, Yvonne is still fascinated by her. And
Yes.
Yvonne seems like a pretty good uh barometer or something for like a certain kind of um like quality or something about a person. Maybe not a totally moral one, but something about the quality of their intellect, right? Must appeal to him. And and I think that's complicated by the fact that we also see Ivan and Smerdyakov having these direct conversations where it seems almost like Smerdyakov knows more than Ivan does. And so again, if Ivan is this kind of paragon of intellect and being able to sort of perceive things that other people miss and spin truth out of them and of some value, um, then what does that say about Smerdyakov, right? And so this kind of comes full circle to Mitya's accusation, like right away. Well, if I didn't do it, then the only person is Smerdyakov, right? It was him. It was him. The ways in which Katerina Ivanovna's sort of manner of being in the world appeal to Ivan, and the ways that those are kind of described, but are mostly off stage, as it were. It make I don't know, raises her, I guess, a bit in my estimation in some ways. Like as far as her quality as a character, again, not like in a moral sense, but just in a completeness or a verisimilitude to life. Um, so I don't want to really write her off yet, but we just haven't had enough time with her, perhaps. Um, but same goes for Ivan. Same goes for Smerdyakov. It's interesting that we always seem to get more about Mitya first. He's sort of foregrounded and sets the tone in some way, or the standard against which all the others are kind of bouncing off or something.
The passion first, and then the intellect, and
The
then
refinements,
the spiritual, and then the super bass, right?
yeah, the super bass.
Like Megan, is that Megan Trainor? Who has that song? Super bass? All about that.
Uh,
Someone has a song like that. Uh, I was thinking, I wonder if there'd be a way to that this would need more study, but like, uh, if like take Yvonne's um attitude towards religion, faith, theology, and say, okay, so if that is what he feels about that, his answer is to be attracted to someone like Katya. Like, um, and if like, what does that mean for him? Let's just if you just take it as like romantic or even just erotic love, or does she symbolize something more profound, like a political affinity or um,
A
I
new
don't know.
ideal. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like a meaning, like an existential identity. Like what is it about her that he's attracted to in response to his rejection of whatever it is he's rejecting with the God, I'm blanking on like the whole chapter. What is that chapter called?
Rebellion.
Yeah, the rebellion, I guess. Yeah, right, right, right.
I wonder, you're making me think, Babcock. Originally, I wondered when Wes was talking or was speaking whether Ivan liked Katerina Ivanovna for similar but different reasons from Mitya, and that he was also seeking religion from her. But he seeks damnation in a different way, not through shame, but through something else. But also because he's so ironic, because he's an atheist. And that's a big deal at this time, especially given his little things that he writes that are made to like sort of prod people and that he doesn't seem to believe in himself. Um, I wonder if he would even pursue her just to make his family situation even more complicated and absurd. There's a fight between the father and the son for this one woman, and now these two brothers for this other woman. And he's like, since it doesn't matter and nothing really matters, why not just make this worse because it's so absurd? In the same way that Stav Rogan, was going to marry that invalid, right? Um,
Yeah.
and just to be like crazy. Um,
And
uh,
Raskolnikov was going to marry the invalid too.
oh yeah, sorry, and that may have been who I was thinking of,
Yeah,
but right. And so, although yes, no, yes, right, the
they both did. Yeah.
apartment owners,
And technically, so does Alyosha. Like he likes the
yes,
invalid.
Yes.
yes,
Yes. Yes.
yes. But so, right, is this like an attempt of Yvonne just to show the absurdity of everything? Um,
I can see that. I wasn't thinking along those lines, but I do like that as a as a motivation. I was thinking of it as that like he's so in his head that of course she seems perfect.
mm,
Like she's standard, she's
uh,
stable, she's kind, she's pretty. She's like, oh well, that's all I need. Like, almost completely not engaging his passion, just kind of pure pragmatism.
Yeah.
Well, of course, this is the best one. Why wouldn't I choose this one? Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that she's
That's
like engaged to his brother is just a bonus, but yeah.
yeah.
Oh, man.
Okay.
yeah. Well, so I guess I just wanted to ask. There were a couple dreams in this. There was
That's what I was just flipping towards too. The wee one. The wee one.
Yeah, there's Mitya's dream, right? There's also the dream about the onion, which I think we've really touched on. Um, but Mitya's dream, the details of it escape my immediate recollection.
Isn't
But
it that Grushenka is going to go to Siberia with him and somebody put a pillow under his head? Is that the one you're talking about? Or is it a different one? That's at the very end of the reading.
yeah, well, yeah, I'm thinking of
But it could be another one.
yeah, and he wakes up and he feels a certain way.
Yeah, he feels like this is right what I'm doing. Like I didn't kill my father, but I'll sign whatever you want, you know.
And it's
Um,
seen just in general with great literature, but also with great authors like Dostoevsky when he includes dreams,
yes.
especially as a religious, somebody who clearly included a religious element in this text and a religious figure. And we have these figures having dreams. And whether these dreams are what is the significance of the dreams and whether they interpret the significance correctly. Um, that can be the whole problem. An argument I recently read about late in Dante's Inferno is that this guy who becomes a cannibal on his children, or at least that's what many people believe, um, he becomes so because he misinterprets what a dream tells him. It has
Mm,
this wolf rending people, and he thinks that means that he's going to die. It's like it's already obvious he's going to die. What it shows is he's going to kill before he dies.
mm,
And so he damns himself. What it shows is him damning himself, not not just that he's going to die. That would be a blandishment. And so I wonder if in these dreams you get any similar sort of prophecy, like one of damnation or redemption, or of the significance of damnation or significance.
okay, so I found the dream. It's in the second to last chapter, um,
Where I think we all have the same edition.
507.
Thank you.
Um, it's like he's on the step, he's being driven, he's cold.
Chapter.
Um, there's these peasant women
Oh,
out.
yes, I had a strange sort of dream, somehow
Yeah.
entirely out of place and out of time.
Yeah.
Seemed he was driving somewhere in the steppe, in a place where he had served once, long ago. Okay, so there's that return, that Gatsby-esque attempt to go back,
Yeah.
Orpheus-esque attempt to have what you can't have, the past. He is being driven through the slush by a peasant in a cart with a pair of horses, so he's got his noble status back, right? And it seems to Mitya that he is cold. It is the
So we,
beginning of November, and snow is pouring down in big wet flakes. It's almost like a fairy tale here, white nights that melt as soon as they touch the ground, and the peasant is driving briskly, waving his whip nicely. He has a long, fair beard, and he is not an old man, maybe around 50, dressed in a gray peasant coat. Is this chair on? And there's a village nearby, black huts, and half of the huts are burnt, just charred beams sticking up. Is this from The Possessed? And at the edge of the village, there are peasant women standing along the road, many women, a long line of them, all of them thin, wasted. Their face is a sort of brown color, especially that one at the end, such a bony one, tall, looking as if she were 40, but she may be only 20, with a long, thin face, and in her arms a baby is crying. And her breasts must be all dried up, not a drop of milk in them. The baby is crying, crying, Babcock, reaching out its bare little arms, and its little fists somehow all blue from the cold. Why are they crying? Why are they crying? Mitya asks, flying past them at a great clip. The wee one, the driver answers. It's the wee one crying. And Mitya is struck that he has said it in his own peasant way, the wee one and not the baby. And he likes it that the peasant has said wee one. There seems to be more pity in it. Okay. Okay. It goes on and on. I don't know how much more.
I mean, it's clearly trying to get him to feel pity for suffering, and it ends with Grusha's words come to him about, "I'm with you too. I won't leave you now. I will go with you for the rest of my life." And his heart blazes up, and he turns towards some sort of light, and he wants to live and live and to go on along some path. And then he wakes up, and somebody had put a pillow under his head.
Mhm.
Okay. So just to finish it, just because I think the imagery will help, so that the dot dot dot, so that that blackened, dried up mother of the wee one will not cry either, so that there will be no more tears in anyone from that moment on, and it must be done at once, without delay, and despite everything, with all his Karamazov unrestraint. Um, he
And
wants to
then
do
the words of Grusha.
so that they will no longer cry. And I'm
Yeah.
with you too. I won't leave you now. I will go with you. Okay, the rest of my life. So, okay, I want to suggest that this is like a compensatory dream. That this is the dream of the gambler, of the drunk, of the person that wishes they could just wipe it all away in one fell swoop. That they've created such an emotional debt to those people around them, and perhaps actual debt, that they wish that some sort of magic trick, like a magical genie, would come down to them and give them the ability to make all of the suffering go away. And so he wishes he could do something, but I think ultimately he's sort of impotent in this situation too. I'm not exactly sure. It seems like a not redemption. Like this is not a baby being born and then like healthy into the world. Like us, like this is the mother is sort of dried up and the baby is crying, ostensibly like sick or needs something, can't get its nourishment. And so there's a synergy missing here.
But
Um,
isn't there? He says it was a good dream at the end of the chapter. He calls it was I had a good dream.
but that's I think his problem, because he thinks, because the dream, also the Grushenka at the end is like, I'm going to be with you. Like these are what this wish fulfillment,
Mhm.
but also with like a touch of truth in it. I think too. I think this sort of almost graveyard of these sort of refugee seeming figures who are malnourished and withered by the translated words, and bring forth no milk. Um, that suggests, I don't, a lack of natural continuity, in some ways. So maybe I don't know if that would suggest like a murder, a parricide. Um, but it's strange. But then just like Agrafena at the end, it's like that's what he wants to hear. And so that would be my initial interpretation of the dream, that he thinks it's good because he gets what he wants in the dream, even though it has some gnarly imagery that he doesn't even that he doesn't try and hash out.
Well, even on that page 507, I think you skipped over it in your reading.
Yeah, probably.
No. Minya still seems not to understand. Like it's kind of expressly there, kind of to your point. And then, yeah, at the very end, that last line, it's almost like he's calm and serene. Like that's how I read that. He's like,
Yeah.
he has a strange face and he has joy. And he's like, that was a good dream. Almost like his delirium subsided because everything was exactly the way it should be. Um, so
I don't know. Oh, go ahead, Justin. Sorry.
I'm willing to take that as a pretty good interpretation that, you know, he's seeing the way things are, but he doesn't get it. And he almost has to accept his delusion as reality in order to be normal.
That's why I think he's vacillating with his emotions, right? When his delusion is at full force, he's jovial.
Yeah.
But when his
Confident, like no problems. Yeah.
and reality closes in on him, he becomes more and more sort of withdrawn and then also irritable. And I think that is a perhaps in direct relation to his incapacity to maintain the sort of I don't know, psychic limits of his illusion, or the psychic dimensions of it. Yeah, because the law is just coming for him.
I think he's been given an onion, and I think he's taking hold of it.
Okay. Yeah, and well, I mean, there's that other thing. It may not just be some regular story, like we keep saying. It's not just some crime story. It's not just
I mean, I think he is. I think he's a changed person, but I don't know that. But that doesn't absolve him, and it doesn't change the fact that he's going to suffer. I think he's.
Accepting.
Well, I think he's like I think his whole life he's trying to. He keeps saying, "I want to be punished, shame me." So I had this. I had a friend who was going in a dark time, and he told us all he wasn't going to come to this bachelor party, and then he showed up, and he was fucked up beyond repair, foobar, and he talked about like he put a beer box on his head and kept yelling "shame me," right? Uh, and it was pretty fucking dark, and also hilarious at the same time. He was like chasing after one of those like those like pedal bar things that people do.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yada yada yada. And so I think this like desire for punishment is really an actual attempt to avoid punishment, and I think this is like an embrace of suffering that can't be avoided. I mean, this motif of the suffering of children and like how we live with it is clearly present in this book. And Mitya is like a grown-up child who had to suffer because his father was so terrible. Um, I don't know. I just think he's being given like the pillow is like is like a little act of kindness, and all of a sudden he wakes up and he's like, "Yeah, I'll sign whatever. I didn't kill my father, but I'll sign it. Let's go. I'll go to Siberia. No problem."
Well, I just really like the way that, yeah, on the one hand, it harkens back to Ivan's rebellion chapter, right? All the
Yeah.
pain and suffering that children go through, innocently. It goes back to this claim that all of us are guilty, right? So it's in direct, those two things are kind of in direct opposite. And then the way that the pillow appears is it's like pointed out that this is a mystery. Like we don't know. And that's just like the murder, right? It's like in some way. So it's getting the onion, but it's also getting the whack on the head, but like the opposite, it's like this little twist. And I mean, yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Like we've kind of ridden through this whole thing with Midya, and we've gotten him to this place where now he's going to kind of chill for a bit. And we can pick up, and sure enough, we're going to pick up with the kids. Like we're going to
Yeah.
see what's going on with the kids in town for a really weirdly long amount of time. So,
Yeah. Now, this is also to say that Mitya can't try to kick the people off who are trying to go up with Onion with him, right? Like he can
mm,
fall back down the ladder. But I just think in this moment he's being given an onion and he's grabbing hold of it.
mhm. Remains to be seen.
Yeah, TBD. I have I have flashes of memories of the end, and it's like I think I remember what happens, but obviously I'm excited to be reminded.
Mhm.
Yeah, I actually don't remember like who did what from this point on. Like
Well,
I'm
the
completely.
memorable thing, the memorable thing about the end is what has to do with the kids, for me at
Yeah,
least. It's
yeah,
not the
yeah.
murder.
Same.
I remember the scene at the stone, that will
Yes,
stay. And
yes,
then you'll
yeah,
forget what happened with Midya. It's
same.
fascinating. Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure I remember what Mitya does, but I don't quite remember how like the rest of it goes. But I definitely remember the very end with Alyosha and the stone for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, until then, shall we hash out details for next time?
Sounds good.
We just have the one part left. Is that right?
Yeah.